green light. This is Vinyl Happy Hour, and I'm Skylar Davis. I'm owner of Culture Shock Clothing, Records, and Gifts right here in Rockford, Illinois. And we're talking about a top 5 tonight, so I'm going to kind of draw in some 5s for you. A lot of you who might know top 5 lists or hear about them, I think a lot of it credits back to a certain movie and now TV show that has helped really play into that culture. So I'm going to play that up here in a little bit and talk to you about it. If you can't guess what I'm going to talk about already, we'll fill you in. But what we do every week is our Vinyl Happy Hour video. We kind of break down and discuss typically 5 records, be it new releases or special releases, something interesting. I've been owner of this store now. We opened almost 14 years ago, and I've been a record collector many years before that even. So I want to kind of dig into some of the knowledge, talk about the packaging, and talk about what is interesting about some of these releases, and give you a little bit of background on some of the bands who may not be, top 40 radio stuff, something you may not know about yet that you might want to check out. Plus, we are going to be providing links, so if you're on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, my wife Lauren is going to be posting up some of the links to some of these records to our new website, cultureshockshop.com. So if you are local and shop in our store, you can check that out, or if you don't happen to live in the Northern Illinois area, you can check it out on our website. But besides going into kind of discussing some of these records and limited edition releases that we want to kind of keep you informed of, we like to have a drink also. Keeping with that top 5, I did bust this bottle open a couple months ago on one of our episodes, and it's one of the top 5 bourbons I've ever tasted. That is my spirit of choice usually. This is a somewhat local one, and it's available through our local liquor store, but J. Henry, this is a straight bourbon whiskey. It's a barrel select though, and it's a 5-year one. We actually got to meet with the owner and his son and talk to them a little bit about this at a whiskey tasting. And oh my God, it was a little pricey, but I understand why. So worth it, so good. And it's also going with that 5-year theme, or 5 theme, aged 5 years. It's almost 120 proof, which means it's a pretty hefty liquor, but I haven't had one that high proof that tastes this sweet. I did not start drinking much before this episode, by the way, so I'm just getting warmed up. That was so smooth. You can see I'm not wincing with pain and spice and fear. It's a good one, and it keeps going because the flavors keep coming to life as you're tasting it. Like I said, high alcohol content, but this straight bourbon has high corn content, so it is a little bit sweeter, although you do feel a little bit of charred fruit and some good taste and flavors come from that. I just wanted to feature that one more time. Let's get in. One of the first things I usually like to bring up, and this week is no different, is an indie store exclusive. So what this is, it's a new release from the band, help me out, Khruangbin, I think is how I'm going to say their name. These guys, I've heard them before, and I actually thought they were possibly Middle Eastern or Thai or whatever. They have it's like almost like a little bit of a funky disco sound with some like really cool strings and just some good background beats. They're a band out of Austin area, actually Texas, and this indie store exclusive release from them, we're going to post the link to that. This is Mordechai. Mordechai's the name of their new album. I've got a couple samples from it. It's on a clear pink or translucent pink vinyl. These guys are really cool. It's just a 3-piece band, and the drummer, he kind of almost reminds me of like a Questlove or something. He's just keeping really cool beats, and the guitarist is just constantly playing all these cool little tricks and this really cool pedal effect. A lot of male and female vocals, but it does sound very, like I said, it kind of has that Middle Eastern influence almost. Mixed with maybe like an 80s, kind of a funky disco sound. They're a lot of fun though. Khruangbin, I love the gatefold too they did. The artwork's really cool on this. And then the inner gatefold too has some cool drawings. The guitarist, he wears this crazy weird wig too, so if you've seen some of their YouTube videos or something, it's kind of fun to watch them. But I wanted to feature that because that is an indie store exclusive, so you can only get it from an independent record store on that color, and I think that's what's really cool about it. Moving on next, why we talk about top 5s, I think I've been doing this now for 3 years, who knows how many episodes. We kind of do a top 5 list every week, but I don't think we've really ever mentioned High Fidelity, the movie, and now the TV show on Hulu. It's a good way to go back and rediscover High Fidelity, a great movie based on a book about a record store owner. And in the movie, of course, with John Cusack, he and now Zoe Kravitz in High Fidelity, the TV show, talk about their top 5s. It might be their top 5 records for the week, their top 5 heartbreaks of all time. In the show, she kind of revisits her her exes and current, people, and kind of compares them all, and it travels that. She's a record store owner, just like in the movie and the book, but it goes pretty deep. And what I really like about the TV show compared to the movie is it seems a little more diverse, a little more about the record digging, and it kind of just stretches that element out and all the hijinks that happen to them. The record store, people coming in, the meetings. What's really cool about this release, too, is that it's a Mondo release, and they put this cool little strip on the side, kind of like they call it the Obi strip that used to come on Japanese pressings or imports. And I loved the back. I did remember one note. It talks about the classic songs that are featured on here, but it promotes kind of an upcoming release that they have, and you can go to mondotees.com to order it, but I love how it also says it's available at all good record stores also, because a lot of independent record stores do carry Mondo releases. They usually, I know them for doing crazy movie soundtracks and horror movies and stuff like that. So it was really interesting to see them do a TV original from a Hulu series. What's different too about this soundtrack compared to the movie is the movie kind of has almost every song that was used in the movie. They used so many songs on the High Fidelity TV series show, they couldn't pack those all in. So it's only a single album, whereas the movie's a double LP. But they use a couple of the real featured moment songs on here. The part where her love interest or whatever is like doing like an acoustic version or whatever of Boyz II Men. And he's a real life artist in the show and in real life. So some of the songs are his original songs. They only have a couple of the songs from like Ann Peebles' I Can't Stand the Rain, a couple songs that kind of stand out as featured parts of the show. If they had to use every song on the show, it'd be a big old box set probably, because there's a lot of songs and a lot of records that they dig. I should probably show inside too. This actually came with a really cool insert that actually goes a little more in depth talking about the original book. So it's got a really cool story that kind of fills you in on the book, why they chose some of the music they did. I'm not going to even tell you if you haven't seen the series yet, the last song on here is kind of heart-touching, kind of interesting. It ties into one of the characters on the show. I'm not going to say any more, but it's a total, what do you call it, when you give away the ending to something? It's a total buzzkill on that. So watch the whole show if you haven't. The soundtrack is really cool. What? Spoiler. Thank you. There's definitely a spoiler on the soundtrack. Don't even look it up. Don't listen to it yet if you haven't watched the show. But I love the insert. I love the story that they talked about, why they chose some of the songs, the way they did it, and kind of comparing stuff to the original book. Here's a cool shot of what's Zoe's name in the show? Rob, I think is her name. So there's a shot of her over a record crate. I love, too, even the artwork of this, just chilling behind the register at the record shop with the 9 Inch Nails sticker on the register. As a record store owner, I think, watching that movie years before I ever had a record store, I really kind of identified with that. And that's kind of what I've always viewed top 5 lists as. So I thought it was really cool to see how they played off this soundtrack and kind of kept it to essential songs from this series that would make you think about it, instead of giving you all the songs. I plan on doing a future video, by the way. So I want to do a video of High Fidelity versus High Fidelity, the movie versus the show, and mostly focus on the soundtrack. So this is giving me a lot of really good ideas. But I have so much more I could say about that. Like I said, it's been so influential on me. Speaking of top 5s, we would love to get some comments and messages from you. So if you have a top 5 to share with us, leave a comment, leave a message. I want to know, for 2020, what are your top 5 releases this year? Preferably a vinyl release. If it was a digital release, that's cool too. Or give me your top 5 spirits, top 5 bourbons, whatever. I want to kind of compare those lists, put them together, and see which ones keep coming up. So we know what to feature, and I know what to try or to recommend to a friend. I think I want to move on from this one right now, though. Like I said, there's a lot I could talk about. But Mondo Records, they always do really cool releases. Not on color vinyl, no big deal. I don't care. Kind of classic black is great with me. But we do have some color vinyl from a band. This is a strange one. I hadn't heard of them until just a few years ago. Ringo Deathstarr. Their new release is on Coke bottle clear vinyl. So it almost looks like a glow-in-the-dark Frisbee color. That's what color I'd call it if you want to come up with a weird name for it. I gave this a spin today because we actually just got it in today. It's a really good album, though. Ringo Deathstarr, I think they've been around 15 years or so. I would call them a shoegaze band. Their music, it's got kind of an 80s, almost like a British punk sound to it, but like if all the instruments were being played really slow underwater through a bunch of distortion and echo. That's kind of their theme, and that's what shoegaze music is. It's got a lot of drenched reverb and feedback and stuff like that. Mixed male and female vocals, but it's really jangly, really good music. And in a way, it's kind of like almost every song has this constant background noise with it going, like, you know, when you play with a keyboard or synthesizer and there's these cool sounds, it sounds like they're just holding down different keys to layer the guitars and drums and vocals with on every song. I'm not sure if it's a synth. It might actually be a vocal synthesizer or even a guitar pedal. But I love that, the way it really fills in, gives it a good thick sound. Another comparison to say this band, it's still kind of underground maybe, Ride. Definitely Smashing Pumpkins though. I can hear a sound of that early Smashing Pumpkins. Ringo Deathstarr, we're going to share the link for that too. The limited color vinyl, it's not an indie store exclusive, and I actually think it's the only way the album is available. It's not even on another color or black vinyl. So it's not indie store exclusive, but I'm pretty sure an indie record store like one of ours is probably one of the few places you're going to find that at. It seems like not a something really big you're going to find, and that's why it's really cool, like I said, talking with the owner of that bourbon company, talking with the record store owner, or talking with people who work at a record store. You get to find out these really interesting bands and interesting sounds, and we're happy to bust them out and play them or give you a little more detail on them. I have one more. This is not special color vinyl release or anything like that. It's just a great new release, a great album. Nothing really great packaging wise. It's a double LP, very affordably priced. I usually don't see their name out very loud either. I think it's Haim though, right? Haim? H-A-I-M?
I don't know.
It's funny because I think about them, I listen to them, and I don't talk about them a lot, and this is their third album. Let's just go with Haim. And Haim? Yeah. Let's say I said both of them, so I hopefully got it right one of those times. But anyway, these girls are a lot of fun. This is their third album, Women in Music Part 3. Very melodic, very just great, easy listening. It's actually got a lot of content to it and a lot of stories on this one. So if you want to, you know, get deep into the album, again, I would say maybe to relate it to other people, in my opinion, would be like Joni Mitchell mixed with a little more 80s pop, recorded with more modern sounds and modern instruments. There's some electronics mixed into it. It's just a great sounding album, good album. You know, good indie rock band. So I know they were supposed to be on some big shows and festivals this year, as everything like that's been canceled. So we've gotten into 4 records so far. I usually keep it to 5 records, and I did. My 5th record I forgot to mention at the beginning of this is a holy grail. In a sense that it's rare, it's hard to find, but it is available. It's been reissued actually, and it ties into the folks at Record Store Day. So a big thank you to Record Store Day, who helps, you know, gather up a lot of recordings, get out some stuff for independent record stores. And a big kudos to Light in the Attic Records, the label that brought this to life. This is available now, very limited though. I only have, besides this one that I'm buying for myself, there's only one other available in this store. We will post the link to that too. But this was supposed to be a Record Store Day release. As you know, that's been delayed for the whole coronavirus pandemic. But now, a couple releases got pulled off of the Record Store Day list and are just getting released still at independent record stores only, but just on a regular date. This band is called Jericho. This album freaking jams. I've been looking for it forever. This is an Israeli band, big backstory of some sort, you know, from 1972. It's a prog, heavy rock, psychedelic album, and it jams. Original pressings, of course, very obscure. Israeli rock band from the 70s, several $100s if you can find an original. Never seen one. A lot of them have popped up on the intranet for sale, in Europe mostly. This one has been done as, like the Attic, also kind of like Mondo. They usually do gatefolds, there's big stories, there's extra goodies inside. They did this one an exact replica of the original release. However, on gold vinyl. So it is on like this dark gold vinyl. This is definitely for fans of, I mean, a little bit of Zeppelin. I would say bands like Sir Lord Baltimore, of course, Black Sabbath. But beyond just being heavy, there's a really kind of weird melody in their prog rockishness of somewhere between Yes and Boston. And I don't know how they got it so sharp sounding and so good sounding in 72. And being a band who hadn't really been outside of Israel, I doubt there was a lot of rock bands there, because most of them were probably in England and the US, but they made a great sounding album. This is their 3rd album. I didn't know that. Now I'm on a crazy chase. I'll probably have to find their first 2 albums now. There's only 300 copies though. This is a little pricey. I believe it's about $45. It's also made in France, but such a limited record, a great sounding one. I should mention the reason I'm coughing up and paying that much for this also is totally worth it. I played it. Sounds great. I've heard people talk about color vinyl. Is that good? Is that bad? all pellets and the things that make the vinyl and plastic are added dye, even black records, unless it's virgin vinyl. So I wouldn't be afraid of that or put that off at all, because it sounded sharp. The only thing I did notice, I got a little dust built up on my needle. That's happened with a lot of records. So I did get a record brush, get it cleaned out. It sounds sharp though. It's so sharp sounding. I'm surprised. I thought maybe something so obscure it'd be hard to find the original masters or tapes from it. They even, like the Attic, even consulted with the original band to make sure this is an exact replica of the sound and the jacket and everything. There's no extra goodies with it. It's just a plain label. That's how it was originally released. But Jericho, that's the name of the album. I mean, it was originally in, a lot of times I've seen the European pressings use whatever language it was, originally scribed in on there. Mine even had a little bit of a corner ding, but considering everything going on in the world and that this came from France to the US and who knows where else, it happens, unfortunately. It's not going to be the end of it for me. But such a cool album. I was shocked to hear, though, like almost some of the sounds of like Boston or something really melodic like that, but I loved it in a good way. I should also mention I did have a copy of this record quite a few years ago, and it was a little fuzzy looking, like the artwork was weird. It was a bootleg. Some company put it out without authorization or didn't know how to find the band or whatever, and so it was a bootleg. I'm not sure how they got the copy of it. It didn't sound very good. It sounded really flat and muffled. So I'm really happy I took the chance on this, opened it up, played it, and now bought it and brought it home, because it's just a good jam. I will definitely bring this with me if I DJ somewhere and want to play something interesting and heavy. Great vocals too. It's sung in English. But yeah, I was just really happy to have a holy grail that you can buy brand new and it sounds good. Who else would be reissuing some of this kind of obscure stuff? So really cool to see these kind of independent record labels, and that's one thing we do at the store, not just with our records, but with our clothing and gifts, is we try to work really hard to get things that are ethically made or come from independent record labels. Like I said, Light in the Attic, they actually work. They found 50 years later, this band from Israel found them, made sure they were okay with how it sounds, and working with them for the direct reissue of it. Just a cool story, good find. And a lot of our clothing and gifts too, we try to work with local artists and local businesses whenever we can, make sure we're bringing in the right things and working with that. So I better see some comments, I better see some messages. I want to see some of those top 5 lists. Be sure to check out soon, give us ideas, and check our YouTube videos. We are going to be doing something. I want to do something next month with High Fidelity. I really want to go a little deeper into that. Because one thing I will mention on this video, before I do the High Fidelity one, is that I loved the show because all the weird tunes they were digging. And of course, beyond the weird, rare funk and soul songs that come up, even though they're not on the soundtrack, it's making me go and dig and find out more about those artists. And I think that's the biggest difference from the show being out now compared to the movie 20-something years ago. Record stores were not as prevalent then, oddly enough, and of course the internet wasn't so easy to find things on and research on. So I really like that it's inspiring people to hopefully go out and find things at your record store and kind of find those independent artists. There's another one. Oh yeah, William Onyebear. There's a song from him on there. Really cool story behind that artist. But that's it for that. So like I said, every week we want to do a different vinyl happy hour, different features. Please keep checking them out. And you can find all the links to these items while they last at cultureshockshop.com. We had some big releases last week. I know you had links out to the new Neil Young album. Something else, I have Phoebe Bridgers. Those are sold out now. So kudos to you for checking them out, supporting our store, and buying those from us. We will keep you updated with new releases every week and a new vinyl happy hour. So until next week, thank you so much. Cheers.